The wind moved like a living thing across the high Montana ridge, bending the tall grass into silver. Waves under a sky so wide it made a person feel small enough to disappear. And that was exactly how Lila Monroe felt as she stood beside the broken-down bus that had left her stranded miles from the nearest town. Her suitcase dusty, her phone dead, and her heart heavier than both, because she hadn't just been traveling, she had been running from a life that had slowly closed around her like a fist, from a fiancé who loved control more than he loved her, from a job that drained the color out of her days, from the quiet voice inside that kept whispering, "This is not the life you were meant to live." And now here she was at the edge of nowhere, with the mountains rising like ancient guardians around her, sharp and unwelcoming, when she heard the distant thunder of hooves and looked up to see a rider cresting the hill. A tall man on a dark horse, hat low, shoulders broad, moving with the steady confidence of someone who belonged to the land itself. And when he drew closer, she saw the lines the sun had carved into his face, the calm in his eyes, the quiet watchfulness of a man who spoke less than he noticed. And he reined in a few feet away, studying her not with suspicion, but with a kind of careful respect, then said in a deep, even voice, "You look like you've been through a storm." And she tried to laugh, but it broke halfway out. So she just nodded, and he tilted his head slightly and said, "Let me see you." Not in a way that made her shrink, but in a way that made her pause, because no one had said words like that to her in years. No one had meant "see you," not your smile, not your role, not what you can do for me, but you. And she found herself meeting his gaze, really meeting it. And for a long moment the wind was the only sound, and something inside her, something tight and braced, loosened just a little. And he noticed the scrape on her arm, the way she held her side like it ached, the exhaustion behind her eyes. And he swung down from the horse with an ease that came from a lifetime of hard work and said, "Bus won't be back today, and town's a long walk. You can ride with me to my place, get cleaned up, figure things out from there." And every warning she had ever been taught flickered through her mind. But so did the simple fact that he had looked at her like she mattered before he even knew her name. So she nodded, and he helped her up, not touching more than necessary, just steady and solid. And the ride through the mountain trail was quiet except for the rhythm of the horse and the whisper of pine trees. And for the first time in months, her thoughts slowed, enough for her to feel the air in her lungs, the warmth of the sun, the ache in her body that meant she was still here, still alive. And when they reached his cabin, small, weathered, smoke curling from the chimney, he opened the door and said, "Make yourself at home," like he meant it. And inside was simple but warm, a fire, a wooden table, a life built with hands instead of shortcuts. And he brought her water, a clean shirt, a first aid kit, moving with quiet competence, never asking questions she wasn't ready to answer. And as he gently cleaned the cut on her arm, he said, "No one should walk around carrying pain like it's normal." And the words hit deeper than the sting of antiseptic, because she had been doing exactly that, carrying pain like it was just part of being an adult, part of being a woman, part of being strong. And something in her cracked, and the tears came, silent at first, then shaking. And she tried to apologize, but he just handed her a cloth and said, "Let it out, mountains don't judge echoes." And she cried for the life she almost married into, for the dreams she had shelved, for the girl she used to be, before she started shrinking to fit other people's comfort. And he stayed, not fixing, not interrupting, just present. And in that quiet she realized this stranger had given her something no one else had in years, space to exist without performance. And as evening settled, he cooked a simple meal, and they talked slowly about small things at first, the land, the weather, the way city lights hide the stars, and then about bigger things, about how he'd lost his wife years ago and learned that love isn't loud promises but steady showing up, about how people leave pieces of themselves behind when they stay where they're not meant to be. And she found herself telling him about the job, The engagement, the feeling of disappearing, and he listened like every word mattered. And later, when she stepped outside and looked up at a sky spilling over with stars, he joined her and said, "You're not lost. You're just between places." And the sentence settled into her like a seed finding soil. And in the days that followed, because she stayed, helping with chores, walking the trails, breathing deeper than she had in years, she felt parts of herself returning, her laugh coming easier, her shoulders dropping, her thoughts stretching beyond survival. And he never pushed, never claimed, just walked beside her. And one morning, as the sun painted the peaks gold, she realized the life that had felt like a trap was now just a choice she didn't have to make. And for the first time, she chose herself, not because a man told her to, not because she was running, but because someone had looked at her and said, "Let me see you," and then actually had. And that simple act of being seen had changed the direction of her entire life. And as she packed to head into town, not to return to her old world, but to start building a new one, he handed her a small, carved wooden star and said, "In case you forget what the sky looks like when nothing's in the way." And she hugged him, grateful in a way words couldn't hold, and walked toward the future with steadier steps, knowing she would never again accept a life where she felt invisible. And if this story touched something in you, if you believe in second chances, quiet strength, and the power of being truly seen, make sure you subscribe and stay with us for more stories that remind you who you really are.